I can think of so many great conversations I've had. One in particular stands out with a really good friend of mine, a guy that I met pretty soon after I moved to Las Vegas, and we both had the same kind of interests. We like our nightlife, and we like going out and talking to girls and this kind of stuff, and we really bonded. And this guy is a born entertainer. He can sing and play guitar, he's a DJ, he's an actor, and people fall in love with the guy when they're around him. He's so charismatic and interesting. But I also started to notice throughout, as I got to know him better and better, and we became pretty close friends, I realized that I could tell that through his actions, these entertaining actions when he was singing and when he was entertaining people just through conversation, that he really needed something. He was acting through something that he lacked. And I saw this pattern play out a number of different ways, and it happened one night. We were at a nightclub, and I was with some friends who were in from out of town, and so I invited my friend because people usually like him when they meet him, and he helps everyone have a good time. So I'm like, great, we'll bring my buddy and hook him up with my friends, and everything will be great. And we got to the club, we were having a great time, everybody was enjoying, and I noticed that he was, when anybody would meet a girl, he would introduce himself to the situation and make that girl attracted to him. Like he would sort of, either cock block or just be so charming that the girl's attention slowly turned away from whoever she was talking to and toward him. I'm like, okay, that's different from what he usually does of making people feel good. Now he's sort of stealing all the girls. And I just had happened to luck into, I was in flow and my vibe was great, and I'd met this beautiful Russian girl, one of these just gorgeous girls from, Eastern Europe and Russia that you meet, and they're just the most beautiful things on the planet. So I had met her, and we were slow dancing together, and he came up and started doing that, and he was being charming and funny and all of his stuff, and I could slowly see her attention turning away from me and toward him. Here's just a fun little story about how charming this guy was. He had a pretty serious injury. He was in the Air Force, and that's irrelevant. He was riding his motorcycle and crashed his motorcycle and had a serious leg injury, ongoing leg injury. It's his, it'll be with him the rest of his life. And he used one of these canes where you hold on to the cane here, and it also comes around your arm like this. So he used one of those because one of his legs was much weaker than the other. So we would go to a nightclub, for example, and he would walk across an empty nightclub floor and use this cane like this and act like he had cerebral palsy and could hardly walk, and as soon as he got to the middle of the floor, he'd stop and swing the cane around and start singing into the other end of it, and people would just look and cheer, and people just loved the guy. So from that exact example, I remember seeing him doing that and I remember thinking, man, I wish I had an injured leg. That would be awesome, So that's the kind of charm this guy has. So he was doing his whole bit and slowly pulling this girl away from me, and I decided to just confront it. And I said, hey, what are you doing? I'm with this girl. He's like, well, if someone could take her from you, then she's not yours. I'm like, hey, listen, I realize that you're a charming, attractive guy, but what is this thing that you're doing where you feel the need to pull every girl in the club? What is that? And he mumble, and the girl's over here getting kind of cooled off and wondering what we're chatting about. So I grab my friend by the arm and pull him over here, and I said to my friend, why are you doing this? And he just broke down. We were in the middle of a crowded nightclub, and he started crying. I understand his motivation very well. He was using he needed constant validation of his worth as a human being, and he got that by getting girls to be attracted to him and by stealing girls from other people. He felt that if he did that, then that meant he had some sort of value as a person. And I know where he's coming from. I've fallen into that pattern a ton in my life, and I've realized that, hey, wait a sec, that's all very contingent. The way I feel now is we all have intrinsic value as human beings. We're all worthy of love, no matter what it is that we've done. Everybody is worthy of love, okay? So we talked through it, and I told him how much people loved him and how he brightened the room all the time, but that if he thought that he needed to do that to get value, then he needed to spend some time thinking about, who he really was and what his purpose in life really was, because that's a never-ending battle. The constant need to get validation externally, it'll never end. And the moment you don't get it, you feel terrible. You feel like shit. So that was Afterward, we talked about it. We sat there at the bar, and unfortunately, the girl left. But I really bonded with my friend. I understood him a lot better, and I think I also helped him by just pointing out, hey, this what you're doing is fairly unhealthy. This is not where you should be getting your source of personal self-worth. And here are some other options where you can have compassion for yourself and love for yourself that isn't contingent on anything. If you find yourself getting your feelings of personal self-worth from externally, if it takes your boss saying good job, or your boyfriend or girlfriend telling you they love you, or gaining the attractions of strangers, of people you've just met, just consider that that is a contingent source of self-worth. And the moment that's gone, you might be left with an empty feeling. And the truth is, you already have everything within you that you need to be a worthwhile human being who's worthy of love and who's worthy of the greatest that life has to offer. So just consider, maybe at another time we'll talk about self-compassion versus self-confidence. But for now, just consider treating yourself the way that you would like other people to treat you. Give yourself some compassion and give yourself some love, and realize that that's all it takes to feel that you're a person who's worthy of love. Okay, if the message in this video resonated with you, or if you have any questions or comments about it, please write a comment below, and I'll respond if I have anything of value to share with you, and I'll be glad to listen to anything you have to say and share my thoughts on it. Next week, I'll be talking about self-confidence and some flaws that there might be in our traditional model of self-confidence and its role in our self-image, and the alternative to self-confidence of self-compassion, and the pros and cons of each. So I hope to see you then and hear from you after.